Okay, guys, as you come in, go ahead and grab your guided notes and the quick write that we're going to do today. The guided notes are for the PowerPoint and lecture, and then the quick write will be for some questions I'm going to give you here. Let me go ahead and pause this music. Revolution by the Beatles, in case you guys didn't recognize that. Okay, so go ahead and get out something to write with. Looks like you guys are good. Okay, your questions, which are on your paper, are what does revolution mean and how has revolution changed our world today? So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys 5 minutes and then we will regroup. Okay, so in order for us to really understand the French Revolution, first we need to look at the backstory of France's undoing. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this PowerPoint, and you guys have your notes, so please go ahead and take notes. Before we start, I want you to think back to previous revolutions that we have already studied. And I want you to think about these questions. Is there a connection? Do you like your freedom? Your home, your cell phone, the food on the table? Most of us do. And most of us have all these things. However, now imagine yourself in 18th century France, all right? So France was a country that was ruled by absolutism. Okay, they had a monarchy, and the monarchy was the people, the king, the queen, who made all the decisions for all people. France was divided by the haves and the have-nots. And the have-nots were paying through taxation for all the benefits that the haves were enjoying. So again, imagine, yourself digging ditches, working really hard all day, and mind you, your crops are failing, there's a famine in the land, you're suffering, but yet this other group of people that's ruling over you is lavished in jewels, having gourmet meals, personal chefs and personal fitness trainers, but you do not, okay? And you're working really hard and you don't see any end in sight, okay? So look at this image here, okay? And I want you to ask yourself, what is wrong with this? Take a look at that, okay? We have one man with one vote, another man with a vote, and then all these people, and yet one vote, okay? So now you see that the largest group of people have the least amount of power and the least amount of say. That's part of the problem. Okay, there were 3 estates in France. There was the clergy, the nobility, and then the common people. First, the rich clergy, all right, they were living off of the wealth of the church, and then the nobility, which, and actually in the first category, there were poor priests that were living like peasants, so there was a mix, but most of them were wealthy abbots. But then the second one is the nobility. Okay, so some of these people had very little money, but they still had a lot of privilege. And this was an inherited wealth. And then you had the common people, okay, which again was the largest group. Again, had a mixture of wealth and poor, but they were those that were paying the highest taxes and were really feeling it. Well, we go back here. So I wanted to point out to you the cartoon here, and I know it might be hard to see because of the red background and the black words, so I'm going to have to change that. But anyway, you can see the political cartoon, and what is it that you notice? You notice that the rich are standing on the poor. They are benefiting and they are elevated, but there's someone else below them that cannot ever get up. They're just crushed, okay? So now going back to the monarchy and absolute power, they were actually believed that they were given their power by a divine right. So they believed that God actually put them into power. And so therefore, if you think about it, if anybody wanted to contest the king, they were basically arguing with God, or they were going against God. So of course, that meant treason, blasphemy, and you guys know, back then, when someone did something wrong, it was like off with your head. And actually France was known as the Razor Nation because of their, not only did they invent the guillotine, but they also just used an axe and would chop off many, many heads, as we have seen in previous wars. Okay, so this belief would make it difficult for the people to stand up for themselves. And here's the list of the divine rights of the king. Appointed the intendants, okay, petty tyrants. They controlled the military. They appointed tax collectors and those who enforced the law, which that's what their main complaint was, is paying all the taxes. They appointed judges, so those who made the really important decisions and said you were guilty or not, okay, and then of course they were always guilty. Absolute right to imprison anyone for any reason. They levied all taxes and controlled spending, and they made laws, okay? So the king with his cabinet had inherited many problems, but they didn't solve the problems that they inherited. The system was broken and the people became restless. The economic system was unfair and it was collapsing. Okay, so back to this one right here. Again, we see that France's economy was based primarily on agriculture, and as I was telling you, there have been years of bad harvest and famine. Peasants, farmers of France bore the burden of taxation. Poor harvest meant that peasants had trouble paying for their regular taxes, and certainly could not afford to have their taxes raised. And the bourgeoisie often managed to gather the wealth, but were upset that they had to pay taxes while nobles did not. All right, so there's some good vocab word in there too. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you guys break up. Okay, we're gonna stop here, and then you'll have a conversation with your elbow partner. And the question is, what would you do if you were in the third estate, which was a combination of the peasants and some wealthy, but again, they were completely taxed. So we'll go ahead and take a break right here.